Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project copyrighted edition for our video channel. Huck saw me setting up in the room, and she came in here, sat down, and said, "Dad, come on, let's get going. We have to record. We've got these people." Yeah, she's a good girl. Oh, Dad's a good girl. She has been a really good girl, yeah. Oh, that feels so good, Dad. Dad feels so good. And right here, too. Right on the noggin. Oh, yeah. Dad's a good pup. Dad's a good pup. So you got a lot of fans out there watching you, okay? Just so you know. I hear about them. A lot of dogs out there say, "Hey, where's Hawk?" Well, there she is. She's doing good. We had a weird day up here in Montana. It was raining all day. And considering we've had temps in the 90s, it was quite a change, to say the least. But it was welcome, because there's a lot of fires in Idaho and Washington, and hopefully they put the stop on that quickly. What's going on? Well, next month, I'm going to be on the Alaska Bigfoot Cruise. You can still go on it. You can still register for it. There's still some cabins available. And if you just Google Alaska Bigfoot Cruise, you'll find it. And importantly, please get your bottoms over to Vernal, Utah, Phenomicon. That will be the biggest Bigfoot conference of the year. And it's going to be huge. It's going to be one of the rare conferences where I'm going to be talking for 2 dates. Be talking Friday and Saturday nights, and one will be about Bigfoot, one will be about missing 411. And I haven't done that. I don't think I've done that since a conference in Colorado several years ago. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And everybody from Skinwalker Ranch will be there. It's going to be a big, healthy crowd, and the people there have been really nice, and I look forward to it. So those are the biggies coming up. And then later in the year, in November, I will be in Washington for a Bigfoot conference at Ocean Shores. If you Google Ocean Shores Bigfoot conference, that's another big one. And I'll be speaking at that. So people say, "Well, Dave, why aren't you here? Why aren't you there?" I kind of get around the U.S. as much as I can, and hopefully I'll meet you at one of these locations. Now, our website for the missing books, Missing 411 books and Bigfoot books, NA, like North America, NA Bigfoot search at yahoo.com. It's my email for Bigfoot. And the store online, nabigfootsearch.com. Information about missing people, CanAm, like Canadian American, canammissing.com. The books on missing people, get them at nabigfootsearch.com. And you can get posters there, all kinds of cool stuff. Hats, Liberty, U.S. flag, Ben's initials. Yeah, I'm wearing it because I've been outside most of the day and it's been sprinkling. My hair's looks a bit ragged. So let's get on it. Why are we here today? Talking about missing people. And I have two cases that are at both ends of the rainbow. Very, very different cases. But once you know about my work, you'll understand why I talk about both. In the last week, I've had several comments about, "Hey, why is this case even up here?" One of them was about a young man who disappeared and was found in a river. They don't understand. They just stumbled by, and I'm patient, I understand. And they said, "Well, I thought this was a case about people missing in the woods." It's a channel about missing people. And as long as that missing case fits our profile, we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to give the parents and the family the visibility they need. First case involves an older man, 80 years old, named Robert McKean. He disappeared October 9th, 2023. about 9 months ago, from North Whistler, British Columbia, on Thanksgiving Day in Canada. He lived with his wife and their dog. It's a dog case. This was their dog. And the name was Lexi. It was a Ginger Cavalier Spaniel. So, Robert had early stage dementia. Never disappeared before. Knew his way around his neighborhood, upward, backwards, and forwards. But on October 9th, in the morning hours, while it was raining very hard, he took Lexi out for a walk. Whistler. Been there several times. Ben had hockey tournaments up there. It's quite an interesting town. Whistler's in northern British Columbia, north of Vancouver, a couple hours. The drive is just stunningly gorgeous. And when you get into Whistler, I kind of think of it as a village similar to Vail in Colorado. There's really just the ski town there. And the downtown area of Whistler has, you can't really drive through the center of the downtown. It's more of a walking area like Vail is. And a lot of hotels, a lot of nice restaurants. They make something there called a beaver tail. Ooh, ooh. It's a chocolate and ice cream, and oh, wow. It's very good. But we were there during the summer months, never went there in the winter. Now, this happened in October. Now, during the summer months, Whistler turns into a town with a lot of mountain bikers. They all get on the chairlift or the tram, and they ride up and ride their bike back down. And there's a whole bunch of people walking around with braces and casts like this because they broke their collarbone riding mountain bikes. I'm serious. When we were there, we saw like 6 or 7 people, and we finally asked, hey, what's going on? And they told us. So when we were in Whistler, we got there a day early, and so we went out with a fishing guide there were all 4 of us from our family. And we're riding with this fishing guide way back into a backcountry lake. And I said, yeah, I always ask guides something like this. You ever have anything unusual happen out here in the woods? Sometimes you get some interesting answers, but I don't want to feed them the statement. Now, in this instance, we were in the west side of Whistler, going way out into the woods. Now, where Robert disappeared, west side of Whistler. Well, he lived in the northern part of Whistler, but he was walking west. So we're with this fishing guide, and he looks at me and goes, yeah, as a matter of fact. I said, what happened? He goes, well, I was with a family just like yours, and we were going fishing. And he looks at me, he goes, and a Bigfoot crossed right in front of my car. I said, what? What? He goes, no, I'm sorry, David. Did that scare your family? No. I go, no, just tell us. He goes, no, I've never seen it before. I've heard of other reports up here, but it walked right in front of my car. I said, did the other people in the car see it? Yeah, they all saw it. I go, what'd you think? He goes, at that moment, all my questions about if Bigfoot was real or not were over. I go, wow. Well, needless to say, the rest of the day, everyone's talking about that. Now, let's get back on the story about Robert. That's my story about Whistler. Go there. It's a gorgeous town. I would go back there in a minute. So, Robert, every Wednesday, met at his church with people who had memory issues. And they would just kind of get together and talk. And he was functional, but he just had early dementia. Well, on that October 9th, raining hard, and he put on his raincoat and he took off. This is a picture of Robert in his raincoat around a construction site at a little after 10 a.m. Now you can't see, but Lexi's down in this area right here. So the area he disappeared in, this is the area that I was talking to you about with the ski resort and downtown area and Beaver Tails. Now he disappeared up here in northern Whistler, western side, on a residential street that went up into the woods area and stopped, and there's trails and things back in this area. He's on a street called Alpine Way. Well, that was 10:17 a.m. Well, when Robert and Lexi didn't return later that morning, Mrs. McKean called law enforcement. RCMP immediately kicked it into gear. They first put up FLIR that day because it was raining so hard and weather was bad. It was very wet. They searched until late that night, and then they pulled back. In that afternoon hours, they made a call that they were going to have to call out search and rescue for Robert. So they made a province-wide request for assistance. And that next day, Squamish and Pemberton search and rescue teams showed up. One of the things that they wanted to do was determine if anybody had CCTV or a doorbell ring that would catch Robert going by, and that's how they caught him near that construction site. So they had him near that end of that road, and that told them that he was probably going into the woods to hike. Well, they had about 50 searchers on site and 2 dog teams. On October 11th, they still had the same 50 searchers, and this time they were able to put up drones and 2 helicopters looking for him. The 2 helicopters had FLIR, and 2 dog teams were still on site. October 12th, Vancouver Island searchers arrived, and now they had 100 people in the field. That's a good call. Unfortunately, the canines weren't picking up any scent, which was very odd. When you have a dog with you, that dog also puts out scent. So not only were they looking for Robert, but they were also looking for a yappy dog, and they weren't hearing one. October 13th, they had 125 ground pounders, a helicopter, 2 drones, and in one of the articles, they had something interesting that I haven't read before, and I'm wondering where they got it. It said that 25% of the dementia patients are found within a quarter kilometer of where they were last seen. And then 50% are found 0.8 kilometers from where they were last seen, and 75% are found within 1.5 kilometers. That's very close. Kilometers less than a mile. October 14th, searchers still weren't having any luck, so they pushed way deeper into the woods, looking for indications that even Lexi might have been there, looking for dog scat, dog tracks. They knew what her tracks looked like. They knew the shoes that he was wearing. He was last seen wearing a pair of New Balance running shoes, blue jeans, a green raincoat, a tan ball cap, and a blue Canucks jersey. Sadly, they never found any evidence where Mr. McKean went. And on October 16th, the search and rescue was terminated. So you have bad weather, you have a dementia patient, you have no scent trail, you have no tracks, and right near there, you've got all kinds of water. So where he disappeared was on Alpine Way. Just a very, very short distance away is Green Lake, and there's a major creek that runs right near Alpine Way where he disappeared. Here's Whistler. Very short distance here. So, why do I bring this up? I bring it up because this has always perplexed me greatly. Dementia people should be found 100% of the time, every time. These are older people. He's not going to hike 20 miles. That dog's not going to go 20 miles. That dog's going to make sounds. Lexi never came back. This should be solvable. It hasn't been. And now we've gone through an entire summer up in Whistler, and mountain bikers, hikers, they haven't found Mr. McKean. And that is very odd. Very odd. Now, part of the profile points is that many of the missing people have some type of medical condition that isn't even observable if you saw the people. In this case, it's dementia. I do think that there's something to this. These people should be found. This isn't an unsolvable situation, and there's many, many of these cases out there. Case number 2. We're going way to the other end of the spectrum. A 19-year-old man missing. His name was Lewis Haines, missing June 9th, 1995, from Yorkshire, UK. In the news the last couple months, there has been a lot of cases of people missing, specifically young men, missing from downtown areas and later found in the water. I'm talking about lakes, rivers, streams. Why are they ending up there? Well, that's the million-dollar question. And this is one of those cases that just doesn't make any sense at all. Now, Lewis had a mom named Julie that was 43 at the time. Give you a picture of Lewis here. By the way, Lewis was a big guy, over 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. His father's name was Tony, he was 47, and he had a brother named Lawrence that was 11. Lewis was 19. On June 9th, it was a warm summer night in Yorkshire, and he went clubbing with a group of friends in Sheffield, UK. Something that he did with his buddies all the time. It wasn't unusual. Just something normal. Just like we'd all do, I think. Now, Lewis was an athlete, which fits into this profile I've talked about over and over and over again. He was a world-class motorcycle rider, dirt bikes. He had many, many trophies for his accomplishments. So keep that in the back of your mind, because that fits the profile of what we talk about here regularly. Well, Lewis didn't come home that night, and initially it didn't strike the family as odd. His mom did say that night she felt the front door knob rattle. The next morning, June 10th, they get up and they found a broken milk bottle on their front porch and some blood. They get a little nervous now, and they start calling it around to reach Lewis's friends about where he'd been. Lewis and his dad were best friends, super close. They had this love of motorcycle riding, and they both did it. When I read the story, it reminded me of me and Ben. And I understand the passion Lewis's dad had. I'm right there with you. I know it, Tony. I know the feeling you had. His father was in the process of hiring Lewis onto his engineering firm, what was very successful. Well, they called the police that morning. They come out and they start calling his friends. His friends said that they remember Lewis leaving right before midnight, a club called Europa in this is what Europa looked like at the time. And this was in Sheffield. So the friends tell him this, and the police take a report, and they start contacting the friends, and they look for some CCTV footage, and they confirm that he left the building at 11:45 that night. Everybody believed he was going to get a taxi and go home. The family also told the police that Lewis had really bad eczema and asthma, and he took meds for the condition, and the family was concerned that he'd be running out of meds about now. Well, during the ensuing days, the police got a report that Lewis was seen in Manchester, UK. So Tony left the house and went to Manchester for 2 days. Walked every street in Manchester, passed out flyers, talked to the street people, tried to find somebody who might have saw his son, couldn't. Came home dejected. Several more days later, police get a report that he's seen in Blackpool. This time, the entire family goes there, and they walk the streets for 2 days, handing out flyers, posting a reward for $1,000, doing what every loving family does when they're looking for a loved one. The next part is absolutely unbelievable. I completely understand how distraught the Haines family was at this point, but they come home and they find their home burglarized. They find Lewis's motorcycle stolen, along with family jewelry and personal items. They call the police again. I'd be going bonkers at this point. And this is a time I'm going to stop you here and I'm going to tell you something. This case had mass publicity in the UK, in Sheffield, in Yorkshire, all over. When a case has mass publicity like this, their home was put on the map as a place where even bad people look at it. And those bad people are looking for you to leave so that they can burglarize the house. And when I was a policeman, it happened a lot. And that's why at the time of an incident, I don't ever want publicity about where a victim lives or a victim's family. None. Just say west side of the city, east side of the city, south side. That's enough. No streets, no nothing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bad people in this world, folks, and they'll try to victimize the easy ones. In 2005, Julie gave an interview to the press. Lewis still hadn't been found. She stated that her husband was distraught, was never the same after Lewis disappeared. He'd lost weight. Family still had the $1,000 reward up. And as she's giving the interview, she's clutching Lewis's clothes. I can visualize that and have great empathy for this lady. Now, unbeknownst to the Haines family, right after Lewis disappeared in 1995 in June, on the River Don, the police get a report of a body. It's never stated when the body was found. They just said close to the time Lewis disappeared. Police go down, recover the body, and the police don't put the missing person report of Lewis with the body. And what they did at the time, they used carbon dating techniques to identify a body. Well, they carbon dated this as a person in their 50s. Well, Lewis was only 19. So they didn't think it was Lewis. So this is the area where Lewis disappeared in the UK. Manchester's over here. Liverpool over here. Kind of get a feeling for where it's at. There are a lot of people missing under the circumstances I'm describing right here. Now, the River Don. River Don is right here. This is the Sheffield city center right here. This is the area that kind of crosses through Sheffield. So the police recover this body. I think it's somebody like 50 years old, but they don't have anybody missing in that age group. They have an inquest at the time, and they determine there's no foul play, there's no injuries to the body. They never released at the time of this article the cause of death, even though there was an inquest. So in 2010, in an effort to identify the body, they do a DNA test, and they had done mouth swabs with the Haines family. So they had DNA. And in 2010, they identified the body as Lewis. They told the family in 2010, 15 years after they recovered the body. I've got mixed feelings about this. There cannot be that many people missing in Sheffield in 1995 for them not to be able to identify that body then. They never stated what clothes he was wearing or if it was found with clothes on. They never stated anything. They kept it very, very murky, probably for a reason. I don't like to be real hard on police. I appreciate the fact they went back and did DNA and eventually did identify him. That's great. But how many years of grief and turmoil did they give the Haines family? Yeah. Now let's get on to the issue at hand. Why was Lewis in the river? Remember they said that there was somebody who tried to open the door handle? Well, Julie, the mom, said at the time that she thought maybe Lewis was murdered. Maybe had an argument with a taxi driver, didn't want to pay him or something. And there was a fight, blood on the front porch, broken milk bottle. Police said no at the inquest that there wasn't any injuries to the body. There's no cuts, there's no nothing. So what happened on their front porch? Was that just a coincidence? You believe in coincidence? How did he end up in the river? Well, the million-dollar question is, how do all of these young people end up in the rivers? Across the United States, Canada, UK, Spain. I could keep going. And it's not every city. Every city that has a major river that runs through it, if it was just young people drinking ending up in a river, then every major city that had a major river would have young people end up in it. But that doesn't happen. There's only a few select cities that have a lot of these. Boston's one. And in Missing 411, A Sobering Coincidence, I wrote about this. It was a book just about this. The press doesn't want to touch it. I lay out just facts. Just facts. It's indisputable that something's happening here. Many times they can't determine the cause of death. And in almost every instance, nobody ever sees the young man go into the river. And in 99.9% of the time, it's always a male. Why is that? Why is that? So, I get fired up about this. Sometimes I think nobody's watching. I know you guys are. But we need more people watching. My views on this channel have nosedived in the last several weeks. I had 70,000 3 weeks ago. I had 28,000 the other day. That is specifically impossible just based on people not being interested, because it's been too consistent. YouTube has been playing games with my channel for so long, it's ridiculous. The only way to keep these numbers up is you really have to pay attention if you're subscribed or not, because they forcibly unsubscribed 10% every week. In the last few weeks, it has to be way more than that. So I really need you to hang in there for me. You are greatly appreciated. Without you, I wouldn't be here. And Huck wouldn't be able to boss me around as the executive producer. So she stayed in here with us, and she's just laying there sleeping, hanging out next to Dad, being the good girl she is. He's a good girl. Well, remember, this is the kindness revolution. It costs you nothing to be kind. You should always be kind. It doesn't cost you a thing, and you may make somebody's day by just giving them a smile. I appreciate you being here. Take care. Paulides out.